The MG3 Hybrid Plus was my favourite small car that I reviewed in 2024, thanks to its efficient hybrid drivetrain and really great value for money. So it's safe to say I've got very high hopes for the MG ZS Hybrid Plus based on that vehicle. It's a small SUV and MG thinks it's going to be a really popular option in the ever-growing small hybrid SUV category. A huge thanks to MG UK for lending me this ZS Hybrid Plus for a week to get a real idea of what it's like living with it and weighing up all the pros and cons to the vehicle. If you're new to the channel, my name's Sam. I make new car reviews and car content every single week. Make sure to subscribe down below to keep up to date with the latest reviews. Right, let's do the most important part of the car because I think it might surprise you. I don't normally start with the drive, but we're going to mix it up today and start by driving the ZS Hybrid Plus. Probably my favourite aspect of it as well. So it's the same Hybrid Plus system that we see on the MG3. You've got a 4-cylinder naturally aspirated 1.5 engine. The engine itself produces 102 PS and the electric motor is 136 PS. Combined at the maximum output of them both at the same time, you can get 194 brake horsepower altogether. This means that the ZS Hybrid Plus can sprint from 0 to 62 in 8.7 seconds, which is really good and undercuts a lot of other hybrid SUVs by a couple of seconds. It also produces 465 Newton meters of torque, combined electric motors and petrol engine, which is incredible. It transfers from EV to the engine really smoothly. Quite a large battery, 1.83 kilowatts as well, which is quite good for a hybrid. It's double the size of many small hybrid cars you see. This sort of driving around town, this is where the ZS Hybrid really does flourish. It's incredible. You get excellent miles per gallon because you could drive an EV or a hybrid mode. A lot of the time, the engine's running at low revs, which is nice, and it's just a really smooth overall experience. It's only when you put your foot down and go a lot faster that you feel the engine kick in noticeably. We're going to get to faster speeds now, be able to see what it's like at the higher speeds. I like the power as well because you can easily get onto dual carriageways and motorways. Just because it's efficient, it doesn't have to be slow. A smooth transition onto the engine. There we go, it's shifted then. You can hear like a mild kind of groan from the engine, but it's quite settled. The more noise you get is road noise, tyre noise and wind noise from the mirrors. It's not the most insulated. You've got to save money somewhere on a car this cost. Grip fine there. Whee! And it just keeps flying, it's good. You do have to reset the drive mode each time you start the car, which is a bit annoying. I've got it on Eco now with the full regen mode. They've set the star for the regen, which is great. So this star button here, so you press it and it'll just change your regen 1, 2 and 3. So that's nice. Quite a lot of SUVs have got paddles, which is good, but they reset every time you accelerate, which is really annoying. Whereas this, when you pop your regen in, it'll just remember that. On 3 regen as well, it's not full one pedal driving at all. It's really nice actually, the top highest regen, and then if you are leveling out you can press your star if you set it to that and just turn it down a bit. This is on the 18-inch wheels as it's a trophy model, and the SE comes with the smaller 17s, so you might have a bit of a smoother drive on an SE, but it's not too bad. It's just when you go over some really firm bumps that you can feel a little bit of a shudder. It is better than the ride that you get on the Duke with 19-inch wheels on it. Good fun to drive, which you don't expect from a hybrid necessarily. Also, what's quite nice compared to electric is hybrid doesn't encourage you as much to put your foot down all the time. On this, when it goes into EV mode, you still want to be gentle because you don't want it to kind of go out of EV mode. You want it to stay as long as you can, which is really good for your efficiency, of course. It seems when it warms up as well, it's happier to go into EV mode. Sometimes when you first start it, it likes to warm the engine up a little bit before it starts lowering the revs. You can see around town, it's perfect. It's great miles per gallon. The engine's still not kicked in. We've done 1.3 miles. But most of the time I've been driving this, it's not been doing it. It's been just in hybrid mode. So I'll give it a good loop to test this miles per gallon. The WLTP official claim miles per gallon on the ZS Hybrid Plus is 55.4 mpg. Around town, that's easily achievable. It's when you get on the faster roads that that becomes a problem. So motorway sort of driving, you see more like 42, 43 miles per gallon, but around town you can get 60 plus. So it depends how you're driving it. However, if you are expecting to get that sort of miles per gallon on the motorway all the time, you will be a bit let down. Up to 50 miles an hour is its sweet spot, with it really performing well at those lower town speeds especially. But when the hybrid's just ticking over, it's at 1,300 revs. That's what it is at currently, and that's quite good. It just means it's, you know, performing quite smooth. I like the fact it's got a rev counter as well. I don't think I've encountered another hybrid with a rev counter, apart from kind of the power to charge rev sort of counter, but not with the actual revs of what the car's doing. And that's quite an interesting feature on the ZS. The MG3 didn't have that. However, it does have a trade-off, is that your speed's on the side. It's on the left-hand side, your speed, and that's a bit annoying. It's not in the middle. It is something that I've gotten used to over the last few days, but the dash on the MG3 is a lot more logical than this. Seems a little bit more like an afterthought where they've put the speed. You've got the 7-inch display in the middle and then the analog on each side, digital analog if you like. Your speed is there. Unfortunately, you can't get it in the middle, which is a little bit annoying. And then the rev counter's there. Rev counter is really nice to have on a hybrid. Not many have got it at all. It's just very smooth, which I really like. The revs rise nicely. A lot of hybrids you'll find it's kind of all or nothing, so there'll be an EV mode and then the engine will just kick in and it'll just hang on to the revs, and that can feel quite clunky and not a very smooth transition between EV and petrol. This is very smooth. You can see how the revs rise. So if I wanted to put my foot down now, the revs go up, but you see how smooth that was and then how smooth they come back down? That just means you get this seamless experience driving it. It's very clever and it's very subtle, the difference, which I really like. It drives nicely. The 3-speed auto seems to work really well, and it just sort of does what it needs to do. You can see how quickly it evens out nicely, so you're not hearing an annoying loud noise for a long period of time, and it doesn't seem to kick in at strange times either, which some other hybrids do. They can be quite unpredictable. Like you can hear there the engine whirring a little bit and then it just kind of smoothens out quite quickly. It's not hanging on to revs for a long period of time, which is good. So you can see I've done a little bit of everything there, a bit of town, a bit of country roads, a bit of dual carriageway, 8.4 miles, and we've averaged 53.3 miles per gallon. That's really good. If you're doing around town, it's going to be higher. If you're doing just driving like this, it's going to be lower. And over my whole time it's been 40.4 miles per gallon. That's not mega accurate because I've been testing the car and also leaving the engine on, filming and things like that. Now let's move on to the exterior design of the ZS Hybrid Plus. You can clearly see it's an evolution from previous ZS models with that mostly boxy shape, especially to the rear of the car. I think the front is definitely where MG have nailed it. It's like a mini HS if you look at it from afar. It's quite a cute little car. It looks really nice. It's got definitely cues from a lot of other cars. MG have done that with many models. They've kind of taken bits and bobs from different brands, it seems, and all kind of combined it in a blender, and then here you go, which I think looks nice. This section here is quite like the Lexus LBX, so a bit more of a premium feel going on there. And then you've got the front grille, which is very much like the MG3. That kind of goes over, is very like the MG4 in their own range. So a little bit of everything, but they're definitely getting their own design language now, which is really nice to see. LED headlights as standard with the daytime running light signature, which looks great, very similar to the MG3. No model gives you front parking sensors, unfortunately, but this trophy does give you 360-degree cameras, so you've got the functionality to see the front of the car but no sensors. I think cameras must be cheaper than sensors. The SE as standard, you get a rear camera and rear sensors though. To the side of the ZS Hybrid Plus, overall it's quite a stylish vehicle. At first, I wasn't a huge fan of the boxy rear, especially the really large windows at the back and just more of a flatter boxy design. I do like these lines and curves just to make it a bit more dynamic. You get rear tinted windows, as you can see on this trophy model, and also the wheels are different from the SE, which I'll move on to that alloys now. But other than that, the exterior is very similar, SE or trophy. Got a similar look. You've got the roof rails on both models, which look really nice. In other markets, you can get a sunroof, but unfortunately in the UK, we don't have the option of a sunroof. So then, alloy wheels on the ZS. Well, it's very easy to choose your alloys because it just depends on the trim. As standard on the SE, you get these 17-inch Valiant alloy wheels. I actually like these more than the 18s. I think they look really dynamic. They've got a little bit of an Alfa Romeo vibe to them with the hull / Volkswagen as well. A bit more angular, so I really like those diamond cut look. They come with Carcode tyres, which aren't the grippiest. They're quite a budget tyre. Not the best, so that's the only thing. However, obviously they've got to cut costs somewhere, and you could just put a set of different tyres on, but you could try it and it might not be a problem for you. I just think with a car with so much torque to the front wheels, you want some stickier tyres on it, especially if it gets quite wet where you are, like it does here in the Lake District. Going up to the trophy model, you get these 18-inch Sabre alloy wheels. These are also diamond cut, really nice looking. You've got GT tyres on these, which aren't too bad. They, I think, are a little bit of a better tyre than the standard Carcode tyres. However, there is still sometimes a problem with grip, normally turning and coming out of junctions, but these tyres aren't too bad at all. They put them on the new Ford Transit Connect, and I drove that with the GT tyres on, and they were fine in the wet, so they're not too bad. I've driven it in the rain and it's been fine. These do have a little bit of a sportier ride, but it means it handles well in the corners. Just the occasional pothole, especially at slower speeds, which is a bit strange, you notice that it's a bit more of a harsh shudder than what you might get on the smaller wheels. So nice options there. Just depends on the trim. You can't upgrade them to any other sort of style. You get what you're given depending on your trim. But I think the SE wheels do actually look better than these. Moving on to colours available on the ZS Hybrid Plus. There's 6 different options to choose from. As standard, you get the Arctic White solid white paintwork, which suits the car. You can't argue with it, it's quite a nice colour. Moving up to metallic options, they start at £545. You've got a few options. You've got the Black Pearl, which looks quite sleek, obviously blending with the grille, suits the car well. You've got Monument Silver. We don't see a lot of silver cars anymore, so that's quite nice. Hampstead Grey, which is just a dark grey metallic. That should definitely be quite a popular option. My absolute favourite is the Battersea Blue. That looks really nice. It's something that we see from quite a lot of manufacturers, that sort of colour. It's quite like Nissan's Vivid Blue, for example. It does look really nice. And last but not least, you've got this dynamic red colour. The dynamic red is a lot more expensive. It's £695. It does look really good. I'm not a huge red fan on cars, but I think red is growing on me. I think MG could have been a bit more bold with the colours offered on the ZS. After all, they are cheap and cheerful. I think they've tried to make it a bit more premium feeling, but they could have gone a bit more fun. In different regions, they get an emerald green, which looks really nice. I like that. I would have loved to see Holborn Blue that we used to get on the HS. That would look great on the vehicle as well. And maybe a slightly brighter grass sort of green. What colour would you pick though for the ZS Hybrid Plus? Pop it in the comments down below. Would you go for the flagship dynamic red, or would you perhaps pick something a little bit more understated? And to the rear of the ZS, you've got a bit more of a basic design than the front. It's not quite as dynamic. You've got these LED tail lamps, which look nice, and then you've got these fake exhausts. They don't offend me too much. They're not a big issue, not too bad. You've got your sensors along the back here, which are standard on all models as well. Obviously, this is tinted because we're on the trophy. Rear wiper on all models, great to see. You've got your petrol flap on the passenger side. That opens like so. We'll move on to the boot space and practicality in a little bit, but first, let's take a look inside the ZS. So inside the ZS Hybrid, what do I think? Well, it looks really nice. These vents are very much Audi-esque, which is quite cheeky. You might not know this, but the parent company of MG, SAIC, actually produce Audis in China on behalf of Audi. So Audi and SAIC have got their own group in China. But I think it's quite funny and quite clever that they've taken some clear inspiration and said, yeah, we'll have that in our car. We'll just change it a little bit. We'll copy the homework and change it a bit. They've definitely done that with the vents, as you can see, with this sort of dash with the gear selector. Definitely is straight out of an A5, it looks like. Obviously it's not the same part, but you know what I mean. So you do see a little bit of Volkswagen Group elements, and that's no coincidence because SAIC do produce them in China. So that's a little fun fact for you, including this hexagonal steering wheel, which is very Audi. This is lovely, leather wrapped, heated on the trophy model like this one. Really good quality, better quality than what we've seen on some other recent vehicles. They're all proper buttons, not touch sensitive. Takes a bit of getting used to what the buttons do because it's not clear at first glance, but once you get used to it after, you know, a day or so, I was quite apt to using all of that, which is great. You've got the 10.25-inch infotainment screen in the middle across all models, facing slightly away from the driver, which is a bit of a shame, but it's not too bad. You've got quite an easy setup, quite an easy layout there. You do have the climate through the screen, which is a tad annoying because you've got this on-off button for climate, but it doesn't bring the climate display up, which I would like it to do. It just turns it on or off. You've got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but unfortunately it's not wireless, so you do have to plug it in. However, MG gave me this at an event last year, so I was all set. It was meant to be, and I don't really mind that because then you're not draining your battery, etc. Of course, they've got to save money in certain aspects. One aspect of that is the stereo system, which unfortunately is quite unclear. It's quite lacking of bass, it's quite lacking of mids, it's quite high on the treble, and if you're driving for a long time with it, it just gets a little bit irritating. Even adjusting the EQ and trying to put the bass up, etc., just didn't help at all. So it's just not the best system. You get 6 speakers as standard in both models and all the shortcuts here. So you've got the volume ones. When you get to about volume 10, it becomes really unclear and it just hurts your ears a bit after a bit. So it is a disappointment, the audio system, definitely. Because there is all the Chinese manufacturers that do good sound systems, such as the Omoda. They've got a Sony system in their car, and that's really nice. And I think the way that the Omoda has a bit more spec on it is better than the ZS. However, it does come at a higher price and it's not as good to drive as the ZS. So something to bear in mind. If you do want to watch my full video on the Omoda E5 electric, you can click up there and watch that video. You don't have a wireless charger, but you've got a space to pop your phone, so that's fine. You've got a USB, which is for your Apple CarPlay, and then a USB-C, which you can use for your charging. When you pop the car into park, the handbrake comes on by itself as well, which I really like. So that's really nice. As I say, steering wheel's great. You don't have any reach adjustment. It's literally just up or down, but I don't find it an issue for my driving position. However, some people might. As for your seats and comfort, you get 6-way adjustable seats as standard on both models. However, they are electric on this trophy model, so that's, you know, a useful feature. However, there's no memory settings for them. It is on Motability, so this could be really useful if you did have a disability or need to easily get in and out. This could be a really helpful feature instead of pulling levers. Another great feature, I'll move the seat forward so you can see it. This lever is your driver's adjustable lumbar support, which goes out quite a far way. I did think when I was first driving it, I was like, oh, I'm not sure about the lumbar support on this. And then I found that and I was like, oh, that's really great. That's on the trophy model as well. The bolsters / support, they're kind of flared out. So you don't have any support going around corners, especially with this synthetic leather. It's a bit slippy. So I find not the most support. I got a little bit of sore sides a bit after driving around country roads because you don't feel supported and you're supporting yourself. So the MG3's actually got better seats. You'd think they'd have the same seats, but they don't. The MG3 Hybrid Plus was actually quite supportive and hugged you in quite well, whereas these are not quite as ergonomic, unfortunately. However, I can imagine the fabric seats on the SE might be better for this, just because you'll be slipping around less in those. Materials, though, are really good. They do feel better than we find in the MG3. However, like I say, the seats are more comfortable in the MG3s. I'll show you the 360 cameras. So this is on the trophy model. You get the 360 cams. On the SE, you do get this rear camera and the rear sensors as well. But you can have a look around the outside of the car. It's quite good. If you've just gone in reverse and then pop it into drive, it does show you the front camera. So you can actually see exactly how far you are from things in front, which is great. So you can see, I'll stop now because I'm quite close to the bush and then go back. You can see the car in the photograph has got a sunroof, which unfortunately we don't get. There is an issue with the seatbelt, and that's the fact it's not height adjustable. The same is true on the MG3. So for me, it's not too bad. I sit kind of in the middle, but if you are someone that sits a lot lower down, especially further back, you're not going to get the same protection. So it's not as good because it can fall off your shoulder perhaps, or it can get on your neck and just get a bit annoying. So that's a bit of a shame. If you are worried about safety on the ZS though, that's not a worry on the vehicle. It gets a 4-star Euro NCAP safety rating, which is fantastic. Especially in this day and age, they're getting more stringent. A couple of years ago, a 4-star now would easily be a 5-star. So it's a very safe vehicle. It's in line with cars like the Citroen C4 and Peugeot 2008, to put it into perspective. It's a really safe vehicle as standard, which is great. You've got all the safety assistance systems as well, which due to European regulations turn on each time. So I turn the traffic sign one off because if you go 31, it'll tell you, which is rather annoying. Safe car, and it feels safe on the road. You feel quite sturdy, which is nice. Another option I would have liked to see with the interior, apart from not just having synthetic, would be like Alcantara maybe, or what they do in Australia. They've got the same synthetic leather, but it's in a lighter colour, like a light grey, and it just elevates the cabin, makes it look quite unique. It's on the dash as well, and I really like that. So the light interior option would have been nice to see, but unfortunately we don't get it in the UK. Now let's move on to the boot space and practicality on the MG ZS Hybrid Plus. Starting with the boot, pretty big. This is really impressive. At 443 litres, the boot is a really impressive size. It's bigger than the 335 litres on the Honda HR-V and the 397 litres on the Toyota Yaris Cross. So it's one of the biggest in its class. It's in line with petrol SUVs like the Volkswagen T-Roc and Ford Puma, which is really good for a hybrid because normally they've got a slightly smaller boot capacity. So you've got a false floor as well in this one, which is great. You didn't have that in the MG3. And then underneath you've got a tyre inflation kit, and also your 12-volt battery is living down there as well. You don't have an electric tailgate, it's just a manual one. However, it's not too heavy. And taking a seat in the back of the ZS Hybrid Plus, what's it like? Well, this is for my seating position, so I've got loads of leg room, and that boxy shape means you've got a lot of headroom as well. It means outside it's not the prettiest with the boxy shape. You know, you've got a lot of space inside though, so it's practical for families. It's sort of a small to medium sized car, so very similar outside to the HR-V, where it's not a small SUV, it's to the bigger side of a small SUV, more of a medium one. In the back, you've got this leatherette, of course, trophy model, quite comfortable, nice. You've got a little bit of nice materials. One thing that the MG3 Hybrid Plus failed on was the fact that the seats all folded down in one bench. It doesn't bother me because I never really fold my seats down, but if you do fold the seats down and have people in the car, you couldn't do it on that car. However, they've listened, MG, and they've now got 60-40 split on the seats, which is really great. It's mad because it's such a simple thing that you would have think they would have done, but at least they have listened to the customers in this aspect. And then you've got not quite a flat thing, you've got a bit of a lip up, unfortunately, but it's nothing awful, so that's fine. Middle seat, what's that like? Very comfortable, really comfortable. More comfortable than the MG3. You got more of a supple base. I said it was a bit firm on the MG3, but this is comfortable. The backrest is comfy as well, so that shouldn't be an issue at all. You have to put your feet on each side of the tunnel here, but no, I think that's fine, that's adequate. You don't have a central armrest, but that's fine. A lot of smaller SUVs don't. This headrest in the middle, it only goes up that far, so not given much protection really. Not great, and they kind of curve in a bit, so not the best really, but not awful. Yeah, it's quite comfortable in the back, should be perfect for families, and you've got your 2 sets of ISOFIX points as well. I really like the Velcro flaps that they had on the MG3. On this one, it's just like hidden. You just push the seat basically in and they'll click into place. You've got one USB port back here as well. Pockets on the backs of both seats are good quality. No light in the back, which is a bit unfortunate. Other than that, it's all right. You've got electric windows in the back as well. Should go down really far, so that's great. Not too bad at all. And how much is your ZS gonna set you back? Well, the SE starts at 21,995 and the Trophy starts at 24,495. That's quite a big jump up for those fewer extra features. However, many dealerships are offering the Trophy for a very similar price to the SE RRP, which is great to see. So you can snap it up for a bargain. It seems crazy they're still making money on these vehicles at that low cost for everything that you get. So then, what are my overall thoughts on the ZS Hybrid Plus after living with it for almost a week? It drives great, it's great value for money, there's no denying that. I really like the styling of it as well, they've done a really great job with that. There is a few things that let it down, like the stereo, the miles per gallon that you get on faster roads and motorways, but the way it drives is excellent, it handles quite well too, it's quite comfortable, and you get quite a lot of equipment on it. Would I consider one if I was in the market for a hybrid SUV? I love the way it drives, I like the way it looks, I would consider it. The speakers let it down a little bit. Maybe in a facelift, they will tweak a few little bits and bobs. But again, this is a much cheaper car than many other hybrids, 2/3 of the price in some cases. So it offers great value. If you're doing a lot of town driving, this could be a perfect option for yourself. Supermarket, school run, all that sort of stuff with the occasional motorway journey. The ZS Hybrid Plus is definitely one to check out. Thank you so much for watching this review on the ZS Hybrid Plus. I really hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again to MG UK for making the video possible as well, lending me it so I can get a real world idea for it. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll look forward to seeing you in my next review.